Have you ever broken one of your trading rules and within seconds found a perfectly reasonable explanation for why this time did not really count? Maybe the setup looked different, maybe the market was about to turn, maybe you just needed to give the trade a little more room. The explanation can sound completely logical in the moment, but what if it is costing you more than the original mistake? That is what we are exploring today. You are listening to the Confidence in Trading podcast. I am your host, Agnieszka Wood, a trading mindset coach and a seasoned day trader with 15 years of experience. In this podcast, we explore the psychology and human element of trading, because how you think and feel determines everything. Together, we explore the layers of compassionate discipline to help you navigate the emotional ups and downs of trading with calm, consistency, and confidence. Whether you are just starting out or you are a seasoned pro, this podcast is your trusted companion, providing support on your trading journey. Get ready to master your mindset and trade like the trader you know you can be. Welcome to episode 85, The Lies That Protect You and Sabotage Your Trading. Nobody wants to think of themselves as someone who lies. If I asked whether you are an honest person, you would probably say yes. And you would probably be right. You are not deliberately trying to deceive the people around you. You are not inventing stories about your results or pretending to be someone you are not. And yet, almost every trader I have worked with, including me, has at some point accepted an explanation that was not entirely true. Not because we are dishonest people. Usually we do it because the truth feels uncomfortable. And the explanation makes the next few moments easier to tolerate. That is the kind of honesty I want to talk about today. Not honesty as a moral judgment, not about deciding whether you are a good or bad person. I want to talk about honesty as a necessary condition for developing as a trader. Because you cannot change something you are not willing to see clearly. And you cannot build a reliable trading process on information you keep softening, adjusting, or avoiding. So, what does integrity actually mean? In the previous episode, we talked about one important side of integrity: keeping your word to yourself, doing what you said you would do, even when pressure or fear or frustration shows up. That is a very important part of integrity. But there is another part that comes before it. Keeping your word is only possible when you are willing to see what is actually happening. Integrity means alignment. It means that what you say, what you see, what you know, what you do, and what you are willing to admit are pointing in the same direction. When those things are aligned, you have something solid to build on. And when they are not aligned, it becomes difficult to rely on your process because there is always a gap between what is happening and the version of events you are accepting. Here's the idea I would like you to sit with during this episode. Integrity is not only being honest about what happened, it is also being honest about what you have not been honest about. Sometimes it is not the trade itself that causes the greatest problem. It is the explanation you accepted afterwards without looking deeper into it. It is the pattern you have noticed several times but continue to call an exception. And it is the thing you already know and perhaps have known for a while, but have not wanted to look at directly, because looking at it would require something from you. And that is one of the unique challenges of trading. There may be nobody else in the room. Nobody may know that you moved your stop. Nobody may know that you took another trade after promising yourself that you were finished. Nobody may know that you are leaving certain trades out of your journal or explaining away losses that do not fit the story you want to believe. But you know. And what you know, even when you don't say it out loud, becomes part of the relationship you are building with yourself. So why we avoid the truth? Before we go further, I want to make something very clear. This episode is not an accusation. We do not tell ourselves these stories because we are dishonest people. We do it because the truth is uncomfortable. And the story gives us temporary relief from that discomfort. It may help you postpone facing what happened. It may protect you from disappointment just for a few minutes. And it may allow you to finish the trading day without having to confront a difficult question. And that is a very human response. The problem is that it solves the wrong problem. It may reduce how uncomfortable you feel in the moment, but it does not change what happened. It does not improve your decision making. And it does not help you respond differently the next time the same conditions appear. The discomfort may be about money, especially when the loss is significant or the trader is risking money they cannot comfortably afford to lose. But often it is not only about money. It is also about what the situation seems to require you to admit. That you broke your own rules, that you lost control of the session, that the way you are currently approaching trading is not producing the results you need, that you do not have yet the skill you believed you had already developed, that you have been repeating the same pattern for longer than you want to acknowledge, and that you cannot control the outcome you are hoping for, or maybe that you may need to change something, that you may need help. And for some people, that's hard to accept. Those things can be difficult to admit because once you see the truth clearly, you may feel obligated to respond to it. That is one reason we hold onto an explanation. The explanation does not only protect us from a feeling, it can also protect us from the action that the truth might require. And I want to add the compassionate side of this. We usually do not create these elaborate explanations around things we do not care about. You are doing it because trading matters to you. Because you have invested time and money, hope and effort into becoming successful. Because this is connected to something you deeply want. That does not make the explanation harmless, though. But it does mean that what we are looking at is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is protection that may have continued for so long that it is now working against your best interest. The story may protect you from discomfort while also sabotaging what you say you want. That is the paradox. Let's talk about 3 lies traders tell themselves. And I want to explore 3 specific stories that show up frequently in trading. I'm calling them lies because they are things traders often accept as true when they emotionally need them to be true. But that does not mean the trader is deliberately trying to deceive themselves. You can be completely sincere and still not be fully honest with yourself. You may genuinely believe the thought in the moment. The question is whether you have examined it or simply accepted it because it allowed you to avoid something difficult. So, lie 1, it will come back. This is a story about what is happening in the market. The market may come back. That is a real possibility, and sometimes it does. That is exactly what makes this story so convincing. The integrity problem is not that a reversal is impossible. The problem begins when you take a possibility and treat it as if it were reliable information because you need it to justify abandoning a decision you made in advance. Imagine that you enter a trade with a clear stop, and before entering, you knew where your idea would be invalidated. You knew how much you were prepared to lose. And then the market moves against you. And as the price approaches the stop, you begin to think that the market is overextended. You notice a level nearby and you remember another trade that came back from the same area. So you tell yourself, it will come back. But notice what may have already happened before that thought appeared. You may have already decided that you do not want to take the loss. The explanation comes afterwards and makes staying in a trade feel acceptable. The thought is not always the reason you stayed. Sometimes it is the permission you gave yourself to stay. The question is therefore not, will the market come back? You do not know that, and neither do I. The more useful question is, am I still managing this trade according to my plan, or am I defending my original decision? From the outside, those can look similar. Both may involve remaining in a position, but internally, they are very different. If you are managing the trade, you are acting according to conditions that were considered before you entered. You know what would cause you to exit. You have the parameters. If you are defending the decision, the only possible outcome may be the one in which the market proves you right. So one way to recognize the difference is to ask, what would have to happen for me to close this trade now? If you have a clear answer connected to your plan, you may still be managing it. But if you keep changing the answer as the market moves, you may no longer be managing risk. You may be trying to avoid admitting that the original trade did not work. Lie 2, I cannot take the loss. This is not a story about the market. This is a story about what you believe you are capable of handling. Let us first distinguish two situations. When the loss is within the amount of risk you consciously agreed to take before entering the trade, you are financially able to take that loss. The account will still exist. The loss is within your predetermined parameters. What may feel unbearable is the emotional experience attached to accepting it. Being wrong, feeling disappointed, regretting the entry, watching your account balance decrease, questioning your judgment, feeling foolish for believing so strongly in the trade, and wondering what the loss says about your ability or your future as a trader. You may not be avoiding the financial loss itself. You may be avoiding what you believe the loss says about you, and that is a different problem. It cannot be solved by waiting for the market to come back, because even when the market does rescue the position, the underlying difficulty remains. You still have not learned how to tolerate being wrong. You have only learned that occasionally refusing to accept a loss is rewarded. And that can make the behavior even more difficult to change. This is how a small controlled loss can become a much larger uncontrolled loss. Not necessarily because the analysis was terrible, but because the trader was unwilling to experience a difficult emotion and kept postponing it while the financial risk continued to grow. So the next time you notice yourself thinking, I cannot take this loss, pause and ask, what exactly feels impossible to tolerate here? Is it the money? Is it being wrong? Is it the fear that you are falling behind? Is it what you imagine you will think about yourself after closing the trade? Name it accurately, because when you name what you are actually trying to avoid, you have a chance to respond to the real problem. And there's another important truth here. If the planned loss genuinely is not financially tolerable, then the integrity issue appeared before the trade was entered. The risk was too large. That is not a sign that you need to become emotionally stronger so that you can tolerate it. It is the information that your position size or your relationship with the money needs to change. And the line number 3, I will never do it again. This is a story about the future, and it may be the most sincere one of all. You mean it when you say it. You finish a difficult trading day, you look at what happened, you feel disappointed, angry, or maybe ashamed, and you promise yourself, never again. You genuinely want that promise to be true. But regret is not the same as change. Regret is an emotional response to what happened. It can be very strong. It may create a temporary feeling of determination. And saying, I will never do this again, may help you feel as though the situation has been handled. But a promise made in the pain of regret is not yet a plan for change. The promise does not automatically require you to examine why the behavior happened. What was happening in the session before you broke the rule? What were you feeling? What were you trying to get? What were you trying to avoid? What conditions were present on this day that made it more difficult to follow your plan? And most importantly, what will you do when those same conditions appear again? Without that examination, the promise may only help you close the emotional file. You feel that you have dealt with the problem because you made a strong commitment. Then a few days later, the emotional intensity is gone. The same trigger appears, nothing in your environment or your response has changed, and the behavior happens again. This is why creating more rules or making stronger promises often does not solve the problem. Integrity does not require a stronger emotional commitment. It requires more precise commitments. Instead of saying, I will never revenge trade again, integrity might sound like, when I take 2 losses in a row, I notice an urge to recover the money immediately. The next time that happens, I will step away from the screen for 10 minutes and write down what I am feeling before I decide whether I'm still able to trade. That is not as dramatic as never again, but it gives you something you can actually practice. These 3 stories can live inside a single trade, a session, or a difficult week, but the same pattern can also continue underneath a trader's entire development. One long-term story I hear often is, I just need more time. And sometimes that is true. Trading requires time. Skills need repetition. A trader may be developing even when the financial results have not appeared yet. It would be irresponsible to suggest that every period of struggle means that traders should quit or completely change direction. The question is not whether you need more time. The question is, what are you doing with the time? Are you reviewing your decisions? Are you collecting useful data? Are you making adjustments? Becoming more consistent? Are you learning to recognize your emotional patterns earlier? Are you developing greater control over risk? Is there evidence that something is changing even if the P&L has not caught up yet? Or have you been repeating the same behavior, giving yourself the same explanation and waiting for the time itself to create a different outcome? Persistence and avoidance can sometimes look similar from the outside. Both traders continue, but one trader is learning, adjusting, and creating evidence of progress. The other is repeating the same process and using the passage of time as proof that success must eventually arrive. The goal is not to judge yourself for how long something has taken. The goal is to examine whether the explanation is helping you move forward or helping you avoid looking more deeply. You might hear other versions of the same thing. This time is different. I can make this work. I should be able to do this on my own. I am almost there. I just need a better strategy. Any of these statements may be true. The statement itself is not the problem. The question is, what happens after you say it? Does the explanation open a question and lead to an action, or does it close the conversation and allow everything to continue as before? A useful question is, how many times have I given myself the same explanation and what has changed because of it? If you have been saying the same thing for months or years, it does not mean you have consciously chosen not to change, but it may mean that the explanation is not taking you deeply enough. It may be time to stop asking only what happened and begin asking why the same pattern is still needed. Let us look at what this actually costs, because this is where the paradox becomes clear. The story appears to protect you. The truth appears to threaten you. But the story may only protect you from discomfort in the short term. It leaves the actual problem unchanged. The truth may be uncomfortable, but it gives you accurate information, and accurate information gives you choices. Lying to yourself may ease the pain, but it causes the damage. First, it affects the quality of your data. Trading development depends on an accurate record of your decisions and behavior. If you regularly soften what happened, leave out certain traits, or explain away mistakes, maybe classify emotional decisions as strategy decisions, you are no longer reviewing accurate information. You cannot learn effectively from a record you have edited to make yourself feel better. Second, it makes your plan negotiable. The problem is not simply that one rule was broken. The deeper problem is that you showed yourself that the rule applies only until following it becomes emotionally difficult. When that moment arrives, you can create a reason why the rule does not apply. And when this happens repeatedly, your trading plans stop functioning as a real boundary. It becomes a description of what you do when the conditions are comfortable. And third, it limits your ability to learn. Learning requires an honest account of what happened. If you say the setup failed, when the real issue was that you entered late and doubled your normal size, you will review the wrong problem. If you say, I was unlucky, when you ignored 3 signs that you were no longer emotionally regulated, you will not know what to practice. An explanation may help you feel better, but it cannot teach you if it is not accurate. And finally, it affects your confidence and self-trust. Confidence is not only a feeling you try to create before the market opens. It is built through evidence. It grows when your actions match your standards often enough that you begin to trust how you will respond under pressure. That is why a trader can break every rule, make money, and still feel unsettled after the session. And another trader can follow the plan, take a loss, and walk away with greater stability. The P&L and self-trust are measuring different things. When you know that you have edited the record, some part of you also knows that the reassurance you are giving yourself is not based on complete evidence. Nobody else may ever find out, but the person whose trust matters most in that moment is you. So how do you begin changing this? The first thing is to separate honesty from self-condemnation. Honesty does not sound like, I'm weak, I'm a failure, I cannot be trusted, I'm terrible at trading. Those are not objective truths. They are judgments about your identity. And judgment often makes honesty more difficult. When you attack yourself, you become defensive. And when you are defensive, you are more likely to justify, hide, minimize, or avoid what happened. Honesty sounds different. I did not follow my plan. I wanted to avoid feeling wrong. I stayed in a trade because I hoped the market would remove the consequences of my decision. I made a promise without creating a plan to support it. What I am currently doing is not producing the result I need. I need more support than I have been willing to admit. I need to change something. Those statements do not attack you. They describe something that happened. And because they are descriptions rather than verdicts, you can act on them. You do not need to attack yourself in order to be honest with yourself. That is compassionate discipline. Compassion makes it safe enough to look. And discipline is what you do with what you see. Here's a simple process you can use with one situation from your trading this week. Answer these questions. Question 1. What actually happened? Describe the behavior without explaining or judging it. It might be, I took a forced trade after deciding I would stop at 3. I moved my stop further away. Or I increased my size after a loss. Stay with the observable facts. Question 2. What did I tell myself to make it acceptable? And write down the actual explanation if you can remember. For example, this setup was too good to miss. The market was about to turn. Or I only needed one good trade to get back to break even. Do not argue with the explanation yet. Just make it visible. The third question is, what truth or feeling was I trying to avoid? What would you have had to experience or admit without the story? Might be being wrong, ending the day red, or accepting that you are no longer emotionally able to trade. This is where compassion matters. You are not looking for evidence that you are a bad trader. You are trying to understand what the behavior was doing for you in that moment. And the question 4, what is one action that brings me back into integrity? Not another promise, just choose one specific action. Maybe you record a trade you were avoiding. Maybe you reduce your size. Or maybe you add a 10-minute pause after 2 consecutive losses. The action does not have to solve everything. It only needs to bring what you know and what you do back into alignment. And then ask, what evidence will show me that something is changing? Because integrity is not demonstrated through another promise. It is demonstrated through what you begin doing differently. And I'm not here to tell you what conclusion you should reach. Being honest with yourself does not automatically mean that you should quit trading or change your strategy or ask someone for help. It means allowing yourself to see clearly that whatever decision you make is based on what is actually happening rather than on what temporarily makes you feel better. Sometimes the truth may be that you need more time. Sometimes it may be that you need a different process. Sometimes it may be that your strategy is not proven yet. And sometimes it may be that the strategy is fine, but your ability to execute it under pressure needs attention. And maybe you have been trying to solve something alone that you do not yet know how to solve. The conclusion is yours. But continuing as you are also has a cost. Not only financially, it costs time, it costs energy, effort, and trust in yourself. Avoiding the truth does not remove that cost. It only makes it more difficult to understand what you are paying for. So here's the question I want you to take away from this episode. What am I currently telling myself that I know is not entirely true? And please do not rush to answer it. Your first answer might be something small and safe. Stay with the question a little longer. And when something more honest comes up, do not use it as a reason to attack yourself. Ask, what is the smallest honest action I can take from here? The goal is not perfect honesty. You are going to accept a convenient explanation again at some point. That does not mean you lack integrity or that you have failed. Integrity is the willingness to return to the truth when you notice that you have moved away from it. Not never moving away, returning. The truth may not make you feel better immediately, but it gives you back the ability to make a decision based on something real. And that is the only place from which you can build a trading process and a relationship with yourself that you can genuinely rely on. If something specific came to mind while you were listening, something you have known for a while but have not yet been willing to say clearly, do not dismiss it. Write it down. You do not have to solve it immediately, but allowing yourself to name it may be your first act of integrity. And if you want to go deeper into this topic, I am running a free masterclass on August 19th, and this conversation connects directly to what we will be working through there. Save the date, August 19th, and to receive an invitation, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter at aheadcoach.com or use the link in the episode description, and the details will arrive in your inbox. I will talk to you in the next episode, and in the meantime, return to the question. What am I telling myself that I know is not entirely true? Thank you so much for listening to the Confidence in Trading podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and let me know what landed for you. It helps more traders find this work, and together we make a bigger impact. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe so you can come back for the next episode. And check out some of the previous shows while you're at it. This is Agnieszka Wood from Ahead Coach. Bye for now.